This is the top plate of the press plate assembly that we are going to model. We'll open Creo, set the working directory again if we're restarting Creo, and open the top plate. Top plate is another really simple part that we're going to model, and we're going to use the hole command to model these holes. The holes, although they look similar, are different. This hole, and this hole are M5, so they are tapped holes. And this hole, and this hole are just straight 5mm holes. We'll do this by using the hole command to produce this one hole and then pattern it 6 times. Then we'll tell Creo that we don't want to use this hole, and this hole. And then we'll do the same again for these following 3 holes, but this time we'll create this hole, pattern it 6 times and tell it not to use this hole, and this hole. We can then come back in and just create this straight cut through the center and put some rounds in the corners. Let's start Creo. Make sure you select Creo Parametric. Once the program's started, maximize it. I'm going to set the working directory. Select working directory. Navigate to where your folder will be stored on the shared area. Mine's saved on the desktop. Select the press plate folder. Again, don't expect to see any parts in here, and these 3 folders I've got on here are just for creating these videos. Say OK to it. We can now go to Open. Select the top plate and say Open. And it should open looking like this. Let's spin the part over so we can see it in a plan view. So go to AB or named views and select Top. Scroll down if necessary, and then refit to the screen if necessary. We'll now put the straight holes in. Let's go to the hole command, select it, move the cursor down into this top quadrant here. Left click once just to position a hole. Again, you'll see we have the 2 green grab handles. I'm going to click and drag these. Select it. I'm going to bring one down onto the horizontal datum plane. Select the other one, click and drag it and bring it across to the vertical datum plane. I'm just going to press and hold on the wheel and move the mouse forwards just to put the plates slightly on the angle so I can see what I'm doing. These holes should be offset from the reference or datum planes by 20mm. Hover over the value, double click it, change it to 20 and enter. And do the same with the other one. We can then go into the dashboard to set all the other settings. It wants to be a simple hole, not a tapped hole. It wants to have a diameter of 5mm. Enter. And it wants to go all the way through the part. Green tick to accept it. While it's still selected, the pattern command is active. If not, select hole 1 in the model tree and then select pattern. We're going to change the type of pattern from a dimension pattern to a direction pattern. Select it. This time we're going to select the direction that we want the pattern to move in. So I'm going to select this top edge here. If you go to the double-headed arrow, you can change the direction, if necessary, of the pattern. I want my pattern to go in this direction, to the right. I want them to be a total of 3. Enter. And I want them to be spaced at 20mm. This gives us the 3 across the top, but I also want 3 that are down below here. So we can now go in and put another direction in. So I'm just going to click into this box here to tell it I want to put another direction in. This time I'm going to select one of the vertical edges. can leave the number of repeats to 2, and this time I'm going to change the distance between them to 40. This will give us 6 repeats, but I only need 3 of them. This is the simplest way I could think to do this. So I can tell Creo that I don't want to use this point in the center, left click onto it, this point down here, left click onto it, and this point down here, left click onto it. By selecting them, I'm telling the program that I don't want to use these points. I can now left click onto the green tick and click away in space to see what I've got. So let's now come back in and do the tapped hole. Select hole. And this time I'm going to come down into the bottom left hand quadrant, select it, get my grab handles again and drag them up to one to the horizontal datum plane, select the other one, click and drag it and put it onto the vertical datum plane. Again, change the values to 20 mil. And now go up into the dashboard to change what type of hole we need. We want it to be a tapped hole, select it. I'm just going to click onto shape so I can see what we're doing. I'm going to tell it we need it to be an M5 hole. Scroll down to it. It wants to be M5 by 0.8. I'm going to tell it to go all the way through the part. I need to tell it that I want the thread to go all the way through. Click on the green tick to accept it. While it's still selected, we can go to the pattern command. If not, just reselect, hold 2. Change the type of pattern to be a directional pattern. Select one of the horizontal edges to tell it we want to go left to right. Change the direction if necessary. Change the number of repeats to be 3. Enter. Change the distance between them to be 20 mil. So now tell it we want to put a second pattern in the vertical direction. Click into the box, select an edge, change the direction if necessary, leave the number of repeats to 2 and change the value to 40. This time deselect this hole, and this hole. Green tick to accept it. Click away in space. Press and hold the wheel and move the mouse so you can view the holes. Return it to trimetric. Refit to screen. So now come up with the square hole in the center. Go to extrude. Select top surface. Spin onto sketch view. The hole is just a simple rectangle. Just go and select rectangle, but change the type of rectangle to be a center rectangle. Let the cursor snap to the intersection of the 2 datum planes. Left click once to start a rectangle. Move the cursor out and left click again to complete the rectangle. Move the cursor into space and middle mouse. This will give us some values and some dimensions. Change the dimensions to be 20, enter, and 40, and enter. Green tick to accept it to take us back into the 3D environment. Spin the view trimetric. Tell it we want the extrude to go the other direction. Make sure it's removing material. Tell the extrude to go all the way through the part. Green tick to accept it. Click away in space to deselect everything. Let's then just come and put a fillet in the 4 corners. Select round. Select the vertical edge. You can either hold the control key down and just move to where the edge would appear, left click onto it. Move to the next one. The green edge highlights, left click onto it. Or you can release the control key, press and hold the wheel, rotate the part over, then reselect the control key and select the final edge. These should have a radius of 4. Enter. Green tick to accept it. Click away in space to deselect everything. Change the view to trimetric. And refit to screen. Let's now save the part. Go straight up to save. Click onto the save icon. And say OK if necessary. This completes the top plate.